This was my identity.
Nobody talks about how freaking hard it is to be a dentist. What most people talk about is how this affects the patient. What nobody talks about is how this affects us. Dentistry is ready for this. Now is really the time.
Welcome to Wellness and Dentistry, where today we're going to be talking about the emotional cost of being the responsible one. If you're unfamiliar with me, my name is Dr. Martin Mendelson. I'm a disabled dentist, coach, speaker, and author. And my first book, One Move Makes All the Difference, is available wherever books are sold. And I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Dr. Kyle Stanley, who's a dentist, tech entrepreneur, speaker, and researcher. And together, we've helped thousands of dental professionals pursue wellness and dentistry. And if you're unfamiliar with us and our work, we invite you to check out our respective links, websites, and course offerings combined on our website, wellnessanddentistry.com. So, how you doing, Kyle? What do you think about this emotional cost thing? What do you think?
This was something that I definitely felt. The
Yeah.
emotional cost of being the responsible one. You know, it's outside of your practice too, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like when you're an adult, all of a sudden it's like, oh,
Yeah.
everything's kind of on me
Yeah.
now.
We were just talking about that before we hit record.
Yeah. I I think that in dentistry, we get it from two ways, especially if you own your own practice,
Mhm.
which is we're responsible for the clinical work of our patients,
Yep.
and we're also responsible for the business. And we're at the top of the pyramid in our practices. You know, most
Hmm.
of us are the owner,
Hmm.
CEO of our own practices as well. And for me, that was where the challenges came in, was balancing both the clinical work that I really wanted to do high quality, I really wanted to be the best at,
Hmm.
and also running a business.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I deal with that all the time with my coaching clients. And truly, we talked about the emotional cost of being the responsible one. What I'd also say is the emotional cost of not being the responsible one. Now, let me explain. Uh, because there is so much to do within running a practice and running our lives, that so often what I've seen and used to see in myself was that we allow things to get so out of control that the lack of control actually is driving the majority of our emotional response. So, for example, um, you're working every Saturday morning because you got to catch up on administrative stuff. Well, do you really need to do that? Now, I'm not saying that you may or may not, but I would also challenge you back and say, how have you evaluated this? What are you doing during those Saturday mornings? How often does it take you? What are the options to engage with services or tools or technology to enable you not to have to do that kind of stuff? So, a lot of this stuff, let me rephrase, a percentage of this stuff we've actually done to ourselves.
You know, I'm thinking I kind of had a little bit of this example that you were just talking about last night. So last night we went to a Anaheim Ducks playoff game in the ice hockey, and we came home late. And Sunday nights, I usually do my investments that I do for the next day on Monday morning. I usually do them Sunday night, but we got home late, and I had this thought, do I start looking at my investments now or do I do it tomorrow morning?
Hmm.
Because I like to have it done so that in the morning I just wake up and do it when the
Yeah.
market opens. But it was late and I prioritized my sleep. And
Hmm.
so I just said, I'm going to do it tomorrow morning. I
Hmm.
had time in the morning. Now, I always do it on Sundays, but like you were saying, do I have to do it on Sundays? No,
Hmm.
I didn't.
Yeah.
And I like what you're getting at, which is the pressure you're putting on yourself necessary?
Hmm.
And how I think about this too is structuring the hierarchy of your business.
Yeah.
Most small businesses are structured incorrectly, in my opinion, and I know this because I structured my own practice incorrectly, which is businesses really should be structured like a pyramid, right?
Mhm,
So let's say you're the owner, you're at the very top. Below you, you have some leads or managers.
mhm,
Below them, they have multiple people. You think about
mhm,
like a pyramid scheme, kind of, right? Um, one to two people to another two people, or three
mhm.
people, etc. But most businesses, small businesses, are structured really like a line, and then with one person above that line.
Okay.
So you have the CEO and then everybody else.
Mhm, mhm,
And I believe that even if you have a small team, you could have a few managers that manage 95% of the problems,
mhm,
and the 5% that they cannot handle, that's what you manage. So
mhm,
even if you're like, well, I only have 6 people in my practice, well, then maybe you have a front office lead that's probably your office manager, and maybe a back office lead or a clinical office lead, which is your lead assistant or lead hygienist.
mhm,
And then you have to set the expectations with people that, listen, don't come to me with problems first. Go to John or Janet. Those are
mhm,
the two people that handle it. If it's a clinical back office need, go to John. If it's a front office need, go to Janet. She
mhm,
handles front office, he handles back office. And then you empower those people
mhm.
to solve the problems. And listen, there are going to be things that they can't solve. They don't have the credit card number. They don't know how this works. Yes. But it it funnels these problems through you. And once we did this in my practice, a lot of things changed. And a lot of it was just letting go of control.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And um, this also even extends because what you're talking about is expectations and boundaries,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
And so when we set these expectations, if we don't uphold the boundary, then so for example, if somebody comes to you about a front office situation and you've empowered somebody on your team to be overseeing that area and you butt in and make a decision, then you're undermining their authority and you're not upholding your own boundary. And, we're talking about the emotional toll of responsibility here. Another thing that I've seen very often is not allowing ourselves the grace of a break for even 5 minutes,
Hmm.
which ends up being of our own doing. Let me explain. Most of my coaching clients, I would say 60 to 80% of them, at some point, we've had a conversation about I can't even get away to my office because the minute I sit down, somebody's knocking on the door. And so it depends on the different situation, but in most times we come up with some kind of system that we then inform the team of. For example, if the door is closed, unless somebody's bleeding or on fire, we don't knock.
Yeah.
And the first time somebody does, your answer is someone bleeding or on fire?
Yeah.
Well, doctor, no, blah, 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 blah. Is somebody bleeding or on fire? I'm being very flippant here, but it's also
Yeah.
incredibly important. So we are the creators of a lot of our stress. Um, I'll give you a different example. My dear friend Dan Murphy, who unfortunately took his own life, however, in his heyday pre-COVID, he had a rental CFO. He didn't pay bills. He didn't do payroll. He also didn't have somebody on the payroll full time to do this, although we did have an office manager, an extraordinary one named Nikki. But this person did all the other stuff. Why? So he could leave at the end of the day. And so, again, this is all about systems and taking on the responsibility.
I think you and I are this in this first half of or first part of this podcast. We've kind of set this idea that you have this emotional cost of being the responsible one, but maybe you don't have to be the responsible one all the
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about specifically trying to deal with it. Like
Yeah.
at first we were saying if you can avoid it, avoid it.
Mhm.
But there's still going to be things that you're going to be responsible for.
Yeah.
And when that happens, how do we deal with the emotional cost of that? Can you get into
Yeah.
that?
I would love to because in all candor, and if you've read my book, you have a window into my soul. For most of my life, I was the person that worried about everything all the time. And I think it's very important to say if you're having trouble getting a hold of your own thoughts, you're constantly ruminating, you can't get it off your mind, please go talk to a mental health professional
Hmm.
because we need to seek out those services when we're struggling.
Hmm.
What I would say is that most of the time, let me rephrase, many times, we are ruminating around things that we can either control or that are irrelevant in that moment in time. So let me give a very simple example. How many people listening here have woken up at 5 in the morning and you start worrying about Mrs. Jones coming in at 9 a.m.?
I've been there.
Okay. Me too. Or in my later years, my meeting with the CEO at 9 a.m., right?
Hmm.
Can you do anything about that at 5 in the morning? In your bed in your PJs? The answer is no. So this is a journey, not a destination. So we have to start training ourselves. It's like, okay, listen, there's nothing I can do about this at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to concentrate on things that, for example, bring me joy. Maybe your partner sleeping next to you, your children, your family, your team, whatever it is, to refocus on those other areas rather than ruminating on those negative thoughts that you can do nothing about at 5 in the morning in your PJs. So I think that's one thing. I think the other thing I can say to you is say around this is think of it like a treatment plan. You have a place you want to get to, which is greater control, lower stress. Yet you're in this current place of lack of control and higher stress. How are we going to bridge the gap? So the idea here is to literally take a quiet 20, 30 minutes, however long it would take, and write down the primary things that are driving you stress. What are they? What about them drives your stress? How long does it take you to do them daily, weekly, monthly, etc.? What options do you have to offload this to somebody else? Now, let's pause a minute. Don't get stuck on the fact that maybe somebody doesn't know how to do it at that moment
But
because
I have to do
no, you
this,
don't,
Martin.
Doc. We can, in many cases, not all,
Yeah.
many cases, we can train somebody, right?
Hmm.
So, what would need to happen to hand that off? And then by when are we going to make a decision to change, hand off, train, hire a service, hire a system? Um, I'll give you all an example. I've talked about this multiple times in this podcast. I'm a very organized person and I am very good with my finances, but I hate it with a passion. And a year and a half ago, I spent a solid week getting ready for taxes at the end of the year. And I called Kyle and I said, "Do you have a bookkeeper? I can't do this anymore." And so now I pay somebody to do the stuff I hate that drove my stress. And so that's just one example. Because oftentimes when people hear the word delegate, they think of a human, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a system, software, AI, whatever it is. So the first step is to identify what the stressors are. When you do those stressors, i.e., frequency, how long it takes you to do those, what options you have for offloading. And by the way, at that point, you might be at a place where you're like, well, I don't know. So then, therefore, what research do I need to do to look into it? And by when am I going to commit to myself to, if nothing else, make a decision about if I'm going to choose to keep doing it or I'm going to offload it to somebody else? And here's what I can tell you, just the act of wrangling control to that level will also decrease your stress because now you're actually taking everything out of this big inbox bucket and putting it in its proper place. And if you're looking for more detail on this, pick up the book Getting Things Done by David Allen because he has a whole system around this. So that's the way I would say we've got to tackle our stress. We got to do it almost like it's a treatment plan. We know where we want to go. We know where we are today. What's going to bridge the gap? In this case, delegation to person, place, or thing, um, versus treating patients and procedures. So, what are your thoughts on that?
As you were talking about that, I was going through my personal growth journey, learning from you, creating my own frameworks, learning from my coaches, and feeling so much of that as self-awareness.
Oh yeah,
Because so much of us are overwhelmed by just saying, I have too many things to do.
yeah,
There's too many things to do. And then they do nothing about it. Right?
mhm,
There's so much though. But it's one of these things that like self-awareness has become such a big thing, realizing your problems, identifying, which is the first two steps in one of my frameworks in Lightside Academy. And gosh, it's funny how I wrote that framework before I really knew a lot of personal growth
sure,
stuff. Like I had gone through some of it, but not nearly to the level that I'm at now. And how it just keeps coming back to that. And
hmm
also, I think about what you preach and your whole philosophy of one move.
hmm
And it's like you look at a dirty room, and I'm kind of looking at a dirty room right now because my son hasn't cleaned his room, and I record in his room. And it can be overwhelming. I mean, I'm looking at creatine gummies and paper forms from a course that I did, and there's some weights over here, there's cowboy hats, and there's dirty clothes. And it's overwhelming to look at. But if I made one move and just said, I'm gonna first do the cowboy hats,
yeah,
and then I'm gonna shred these papers that I have to shred,
hmm
and then I'm gonna one by one put up these
hmm
shirts.
hmm
Guess what? In 10 minutes, the room would be
yeah,
clean.
yeah,
And so it's like, and it sounds so silly, right? It sounds so simple,
hmm
but this is how it is with our practice too.
oh, 100%.
We look at our practice and we go, oh my gosh, I got to treatment plan all these patients. I've got to write all the notes. I've got to do payroll. I've got to, order that new sterilizer because the other one broke.
Yeah,
And let's first just take into account everything you have to do. Write it down.
hmm
And then exactly what you were saying, which is go through and
absolutely.
say, do I need to do it? Can someone
Yeah,
else do it? Also, and I can't remember if you mentioned this or not, but when does this need to be done?
oh yeah,
Priorities.
yeah,
And this goes back to what you and I talk about with Lightside Live too, is like you can't organize your life unless you know what your values and your priorities are.
hmm
And you're like, what does that have to do with, organizing my practice? Well,
hmm
you have to know what the priority is. Like, let's say
hmm
ordering that sterilizer is keeping you behind on treating 8 hygiene patients a day because you can't get your instruments out fast enough.
hmm
You better order that damn sterilizer soon, right?
yeah,
That
absolutely.
should come before doing new wallpaper or
Yeah.
whatever it is. I'm making up examples.
Well,
But
yeah, but they're all relevant. Do you have any idea how many docs I've guided through cleaning up their desk? I've lost count. The example that I give is kind of a non-work thing, but it's still relevant, which is in I love to cook. Those who know me know I love to cook. And for years, I had no joke a 5-inch high pile of recipes that were printed out from various sources or copied. And the state of overwhelm that I had to get that organized was overwhelming. And every time I wanted to plan a dinner party, I literally had to go through this entire stack to find my recipes. And as I hear it coming out of my own mouth now, it sounds crazy.
yeah,
So in December of 2020, sorry, excuse me, December 2019, I made a decision that starting January 1, I was going to do 10 recipes a day. And I was going to start collating them into categories. And I was going to put every single one in a plastic sleeve and put it in a 3-ring binder. Well, guess what? It worked. And not only that, there were some days that I just did 10. There were some days that I did 76.
Wow.
And in the end, I created three 3-inch, 3-ring binders full of over 600
Oh
recipes.
my gosh.
And guess how long it took me to do it in the end?
I don't know. 6 months?
Just, no, just a month. Just a
Oh.
month. But I did it every night.
Mm-hmm.
And again, some days I did 10,
Yeah.
some days I did 76, but I was committed to get it done. And so, in large part, that's one of the sources of the idea around one move makes all the difference. Just do one thing every day. So, if it's, I'm just going to list off all the stuff that's stressing me out tonight, great, then just do that. Then the next night, you're going to list out how long it takes and the frequency with which you need to do it. Great, then
Yeah.
just do that. Because guess what? You've been functioning all this time and you're looking for a change. You don't need to fix everything instantaneously. That's not the way life works.
Another topic that I would like to discuss that has helped me with dealing with the emotional cost of being the responsible one is identity.
Mm,
And so I think especially with dentists, when we have our identity with our profession,
yeah.
we're so much more emotionally involved than we need to be. And I don't want people to think that like just be laissez-faire with your profession and whatever. No, I
No.
mean, if you guys are listening to this, you know that Martin and I love dentistry. We're passionate
Mhm.
about it. We love high quality dentistry. We like looking at dentistry. Like we are dental nerds for sure. But there is a fine line between being passionate about something and being obsessive
Yeah.
or believing that it is your purpose in life. And when you separate yourself from this, you still have these responsibilities,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
they don't impact you as much.
Yeah.
And let's say you don't get one done before you go home for the weekend. You don't think about it the whole weekend.
And I think for most, not all, but for most, it's a matter of experience and just number of years on this earth
It was for me
where
too.
you've been through this enough times, you know that the sky didn't fall and everything's okay. But there are people that really do take this to heart and have trouble putting that aside.
Yeah,
And I've dealt with this with a lot of my coaching clients, and often when those kind of things come up, therapy, discussions of therapy come into the mix because anytime we can't get something out of our head and we ruminate, and no matter what we do,
yep,
that's a therapeutic modality need. Um, but we have to be realistic. I mean, listen, we've survived 100% of our worst days. We always have, we always
hmm
will.
yeah.
So it's like, okay, so what's the worst that can happen? And will I really still worry about this a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now? Now, in some cases, yeah, like, if you're threatened to be sued and, you're going
hmm
through the process, I mean, that is all very understandable. Come
Yeah,
on. But that's not the kind of stuff we're talking about. Because if the only times we were that taxed emotionally were those bigger things that come up rarely, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
it's
We
true.
all know it's the little things on a daily basis that we just can't get out of our head. That's the stuff that's driving us bonkers. So it's those little things with systems and being realistic with ourselves and all those kind of things. And a lot of what we're talking about is the business burden, right?
Yeah.
And so many people, and I used to be one of those people, not anymore, sit there over the weekend. They're like, oh my God, I have so much to do. I have to do this. I have to do, oh, I got to remember to do. No, no, no. You sit down and you write your list out on a Friday, and then you put it away and you don't have to worry about it till Monday. And you know what happens? You think to yourself, oh, I got to remember to do X. Well, guess what? It's on your list. And if it's not on your list, then put it on your list and then move on.
Well, this has been one thing that I've gotten very good at over the years. And I know you talk about this a lot, which is
Oh,
just
yeah.
capturing the ideas first.
Yeah.
Because I had and this still happens to me like with my assistant or with Instagram posts that I want to do, you know. I will think about this idea and then I'll say, "Oh yeah, I should do that." And what I used to do is say like, "Oh, well, I'll remember when I'm going to go do social media stuff or when I'm going to talk to that person."
Mhm.
I didn't remember that. I mean,
Yeah.
I have 100 things going on like everybody else. And so I just have notes apps that are like
Mhm.
social media ideas, discuss with my assistant,
Mhm.
vacation ideas. I mean, like just ideas and
Yeah.
just you have to capture first. And
Yeah.
then once you capture it, you can organize it. And then once you organize it, you can
Mhm.
decide what is a priority. And, this
Mhm.
is something that
Mhm.
you teach really well. And you have I think one of your modules is all about this in your online
Yeah.
course, right?
Yeah. It's this lesson number two is a
That's what
time
I
and
thought it was
task
too.
audit that
Yeah.
then leads into later episodes, how to deal with it all, or later
hmm
modules rather. How to deal
But
with it all.
if you're overwhelmed, first do a time and task
Yeah.
audit, like Martin teaches, and go take his course because I've learned so much from that idea. Knowing what you have to do, when you have to do it, who has to do it, can you delegate it, and like you say all the time, be very real about yourself if you can delegate it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing too is before we hit record, you were talking about you had a whole laundry list of adulting that you had to do.
Yes.
And so I'm curious if you've found this to be true too. What I find is with the appropriate capture, you can then also better schedule yourself. And what I mean by that is, let's say your auto insurance is due
hmm
on December 3rd, right?
Yeah.
And we're sitting here and it's October, and you're like, I got to get this done, got to get this done. And then you're like, wait a minute, no, I don't. I
hmm
can do this next week. And so you look at your schedule, you realize you're slammed today. You had the intention to do it today, but there's zero reason why you can't schedule to do it next week.
Yeah.
When you,
I'm like this. I put my property tax like this, and
yeah,
I put reminders on my calendar whenever it's due, and I do like a week reminder, so it's like
yeah,
7 days in a row where it's
yeah,
yelling at me before I have to do it,
yeah.
and I find the best day to do that.
Absolutely. And that's what David Allen teaches as well. The what people may not understand yet is the just the simple act of capturing everything reduces your stress dramatically because now all of a sudden you're not keeping everything up here between your ears.
hmm
It's actually in some kind of file capture system. Now in my course, and you alluded to this because you were talking about notes apps, you know, embrace the technology that we have today, right? One of my courses is called From Sticky Notes to Sanity because I found so many dentists were using so many sticky notes.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a bit of a training to go from sticky notes to electronic, but the beauty of electronic is that it's always with you.
And it's queryable.
Yes,
I was thinking
that's the
about that
big
when I
one.
was thinking of your recipes.
Yeah.
Have you thought about digitizing them?
I have. In fact, interestingly enough, I just got an app for my cookbooks. And talk about interesting towing the lines of copyrights. So what I did was I scanned the barcodes of all my cookbooks. I can
Okay.
now search for, ingredients, recipes. Blah, 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 blah. It doesn't give me the recipe, but it tells me what book and what page.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that cool? So it
Yeah.
doesn't violate copyright laws, but it allows me to engage with my cookbook collection, which isn't all that big. Most of my
That's a
recipes
really cool
20.
idea
Yeah.
because yeah, I mean I have a lot of dental books that are like that.
Yeah.
That is like, oh, there's this cool thing and like what page is that on? And it's like you think that so many books can be non-usable, but now that
Yeah.
you add in
Yeah.
the queryability, I mean
Yeah.
that's really cool.
So let's talk about something then real quick because you just said something that made me think. So most of us are old enough to have notes from CE courses on paper.
Yeah.
Did you know that you can take pictures of that, dump that in AI, and it'll transcribe it
Yep.
for you? Then you can dump that into a notes app or Evernote or OneNote or whatever. Now everything becomes searchable.
Yeah.
I mean, holy smokes, right?
hmm
So technology today has made things a lot easier to find things. Um, and I'm gonna kind of go back and say that, our topic today was the emotional cost of being the responsible one. I'm going to say we're responsible for most of our stress
Mm,
because we're not handling it right or
right.
effectively. How about that?
Yeah. Well, any final thoughts, Martin?
I think I just want to encourage people to even just consider at the very least doing a time and task audit or at the least beyond that, just do a list of everything that is taking your time and what the stress level is 1 to 10 and how you would feel if you could reduce or eliminate the time taken for that scale from 1 to 10. If
And
you
I
could just do
completely agree. And
that.
I would also tell people the list doesn't need to happen like I'm going to sit down and make the list because
Mhm.
sometimes you don't remember it all.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
so this is what happened with me over the weekend. And that's why I had so much to do on Monday was because I was sitting there over the weekend and being like, oh yeah, I have to cancel my car insurance for the car that we just sold. Oh yeah, I have to call my daughter's ENT. Oh yeah, I have to get the warranty for the new car that we bought. I can't remember. There were a bunch of other stuff. But I captured it over the weekend and
Yeah.
then scheduled it for this morning at
Yeah.
certain times. So from 9 to
Yeah.
10, I was doing these three things. From 10 to 11, I was doing these three things. And so I don't want people to say like, okay, sit down. Okay, now I got to remember everything I have to do. You may remember three or five of the 30 things you have
Hmm.
to do.
Yeah.
So if you keep that list, when it comes to you, when you're walking to your car or when you're
Mhm.
at the gym or when you're making dinner, you just go to your phone or computer or whatever and say, oh, add it to here. And then you can go and take care of it when you have the time.
And the other thing I'd say to you too, if there's repetitive tasks in your business or your personal life that have a multitude of steps to them that you forget, then make a checklist within one of those notes apps. The example I'll give you all is I do a lot of team workshops, and I have what's called a master packing list. And I pull up my master packing list, and I don't even have to think about it. I just pull stuff out of, wherever it's stored that goes into the bags that I'm traveling with, and off I go. I don't even think about it anymore. I just use the checklist. And so it's another idea that people can take away from this.
Checklists are fantastic. I'm very big on checklists. That's what I teach in my course, Your Best Year Ever. That's one of the big parts of it.
Yep.
So yeah, I completely agree with everything Martin said. The first step is capturing it. And I think if you want to start with baby steps, capture it.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this topic on the emotional cost of being the responsible one. And if you're interested in anything that Martin and I does, his online course where you can learn all about this stuff, any of my online courses, our live courses together, our research, our everything that we've made to help our profession, then you can go to wellnessanddentistry.com and we'll have everything listed there. We hope to see you guys on the next episode of Wellness in Dentistry.
Bye bye.